Hey, Lowco football fans, welcome to another edition of the Lowco Pigskin Preview. I'm Justin Jarrett, joined as always by Wes Kerr, and we'll be bringing in Dylan Price in a little bit to talk about the Skeeza games, both last week's results and this week's slate, and looking forward to the playoffs. But Wes, you and I will break down the high school league game, South Carolina High School League, and we'll run through the scores real quick and the updates to the Week 8 polls from the South Carolina High School Prep Football Media Poll. And then we'll get into the slate. Then we'll bring in Dylan for the Skeeza Roundup and then name our players of the week. But starting with the scores, Estill over Whale Branch, the game I was at, 28-7. Estill got a couple first place votes. We'll talk about it later. This in the Class 1A polls. I didn't get a ballot together this week. I'm running way behind, but they might have gotten one from me. They were impressive in person. I really like that team a lot, even more than I did before. Haven't seen them now up close for a full game. Hilton Head 19-0 over Colleton County on homecoming. Back to the strong defense, and Chris Marable picking up a Shrine Bowl invitation this week as well. So fitting that he gets that on the week that they shut out the Cougars. Lucy Beckham 22-14 over Bluffton. Tough loss for the Bobcats, who at one time were down both of their top two quarterbacks in that game and couldn't make the comeback. Woodland beat Ridgeland 54-12 to remain undefeated. James Island 34-7 over May River. So the Trojans still looking like the front runner in Region 7-4A. Wade Hampton 30-7 over Edisto. And then on Saturday, you were at the Beaufort Battery Creek game. Dolphins got on the board first, but Beaufort flexed some muscle after that, 37-7. So that's last week's slate. Anything that jumps out at you? I mean, obviously that Estill win huge, and Beaufort, I think, pretty impressive performance from the defense there.
Seems like Bryce Labyrinth, like every game, we'll let them score first. We'll give them a touchdown, and then we'll turn it on. It seems like that happens a lot, but man, this Beaufort, that was an impressive effort from the Eagles, especially after what Battery Creek has done these last few games and what they did in that first drive. I thought they moved the ball exceptionally well, passing game, and then unfortunately Jeremiah McKeachin, the injury in the second quarter was really unfortunate, especially after they've already lost Damien Freeman, and it's tough when you don't have those two running backs that have really been the heart and soul of that offense. So that really kind of sucked the life out of that offense late in that ball game. But credit to Beaufort, that defense was phenomenal. Had a pick six in that ball game from Dom Camacho, and Colton Ferries with maybe the highlight of the year with just a ridiculous punt return from midfield. Unbelievable stuff from Ferries, who is just an amazing player to watch. And then, of course, Casey Fields doing Casey Fields things, picking up a couple more scores. And, man, what a stretch that he has been on over these last 4 games or so for the Beaufort High Eagles. And, Eagles putting it all together on the road, 37-7. I believe they are on a bye this week. So, well-deserved rest for Bryce Labyrinth's squad before they go for what could be a fun finale. Week 10, I believe they host Hanahan. So put that one on your calendars. That could be a region title decider there. It could be a very fun one. So look forward to that. But, James Allen making the statement in 7-4A. They're looking like you're number one. You got 4 of those teams at 1-1 with Mate River, Hilton Head, Lucy, Beckman, Bluffton. I think Colleton County is the 6. I think James Allen is the 1, but 2 through 5 still up for debate. So I'll see what happens there. But, great week in high school football. Nice win for Wade Hampton over Edisto. And Estill absolutely rolling past Whale Branch. Warriors unfortunately struggling with some injuries and a tough stretch these last few weeks for Jerry Hatcher's team. But how about this Estill squad? I think they are a legit contender in Class 1A.
Yeah, they are definitely a contender. I would say that's in fact, Rob Hanna told me a couple of weeks ago, he was surprised at all when they smoked Bamberg Earhart. He said they're better. And he said, I don't see anybody in the lower state who can beat them. And I'm, starting to think he knew what he was talking about the whole time because he's been paying a little bit closer attention to them than we have. He's seen them up close and personal. And now I have, and I'm really impressed. I'm just impressed with the coaching staff. With their knowledge, with their leadership, with the vibe on their sideline. It was a really good vibe, and they got the right people there, playing the right roles, and they've got some terrific personnel. I mean, I said on the live show that Xavier Garvin, you look at him here, and he's doing a Lamar Jackson thing, but he doesn't look like the biggest, strong kid. It looks like he might wear down, but he has that knack for. First of all, he's tough as nails, but he has a knack for just not taking hard hits. He always manages to pivot himself around and not take the big blow and slip through guys. He's super slippery. They got him there, got his helmet on too, but he's really good, and the offensive line is terrific, and we've got some highlights in here where you'll see the offensive line getting like 20-30 yards upfield blocking for him. And it's just he's just running behind them and looking for an opening, and then the defense gets after it. If you try to ball on them, they're going to make it tough on you. You're going to have to do it another way. They're going to man you up on defense. If you try to throw the ball down the field, they're going to man you up and dare you to make a good throw, even if you beat them. And there's just the confidence and swagger about that team that seems to grow every week, and I think they're going to be really dangerous in the playoffs.
They're built to win the playoffs with that tough, hard-nosed defense, and when you have a guy like Xavier Garvin who can be just an electric playmaker like that behind one of the most dominant offensive lines I've seen, maybe the best O-line in Class 1A, you're going to find success, and you're going to take this deep into November and maybe even into December. So I am very high on this Estill team, and we'll get to it once we get into the polls. But, man, very, very much deserving to be recognized as one of the best teams in that classification. Absolutely rolling, and I hope I get to see them in person sometime.
Might as well talk about it now. They're number 6 in Class 1A this week, which I think that they dropped a spot. I'm not sure about that. I think they were number 5 before, but I'm not sure how that happened. But the 2 first-place votes, you had Whale Branch dropping out of the top 10, now receiving votes. Wade Hampton at number 10 in 2A, and then Beaufort at number 5 in 3A. So, getting a little more representation in there. It's been the same 4 teams, but to see Estill rising up is definitely good. And, none of it really matters. At the end of the day, right. You're going to have a playoff.
they're going to decide on the field, not going to decide on paper, but, it's a surprise in a sense to see that Estill has been on this meteoric rise. But, when you look at it, when you watch them play, they definitely look at like one of the top team in Class 1A, especially in the lower state. I think they can, when you just reading off these names, Christchurch has had a good year. St. Joseph's had a great year in terms of the statewide. But I think Estill, you look at the team and look what they can do when you have a playmaker like Garvin and have that tremendous offensive line and that defense that will fight you on every down. They can go out with anybody. And so I definitely think those 2 first-place votes are very much deserving. And if they keep this up, I can keep considering them to rise in those rankings. And I think the most important part of it for those teams is rankings are important, but it's all matters what we do on the field. And I think these guys are going to do some work on the field in the next few weeks.
Yeah, and I think there's something. I think you're onto something there in the sense that those rankings, a lot of times, all of us are busy and we're keeping up the best we can, but we know the teams that are closest to us, and we know the teams whose reputations precede them. And most people,
Christian, when we look what they've done last year and
right.
in the past, they're going to get respect, and as they should.
Yeah, and most people probably don't know how to pronounce Estill in the state, outside of the Lowcountry. And that's part of what we're trying to do here is just put those names out there and let people know, hey, we got a squad down here, in Hampton. And so, those guys are going to get a chance to prove it on the field, and every opportunity they've had so far, they've done it. Smacked Bamberg Earhart and came up and won a dogfight with Whale Branch with Jerry Hatcher trying to outduel one of his former players, because Roman Singleton, the DC over there, was a Beaufort High Eagle under Hatcher and Clifford back in the day. So he knew what Hatcher was up to, trying to shorten the game and play defense there at the end in the second half, and it almost worked. But a lot about Xavier Garvin there, but Jameel Bobine is electric. Jamaris Miller is electric. Kayvon Chisholm is a tall, big drink of water that is just a monster. They got a bunch of dudes, and they'll put a bunch of different guys in the backfield and run a lot of different people at you. Little quick guys and big, strong guys. And they just look like a fully formed, football team and a Class 1A title contender to me. But anyway, let's get into this week's slate, Wes. with May River at Colleton County at the top of it. Lowco on Lowco matchup, but one that May River should be able to take care of business, you would expect. And if they don't, then that would be a concern. But Colleton, on the other hand, looking for a win wherever they can get one. I'll be interested to see what they try to do here. May River, a power running team. So, Colleton, how do they try to attack this May River defense and try to keep themselves in the game? I think you got to get on top early. We've talked about May River not being built to come back to play from behind. So, you probably take the ball first if you win the toss and try to take as much time off the clock as you can and put points on the board and go from there. But your thoughts on this one, Wes?
Yeah, I think it should be favored in May River, but Colleton County has a lot of motivation of their own after shutout loss against Hilton Head, and this is a big game for them. 0-2, looking for a region victory, and this is an important one for the Cougars in many different ways. But I'd like to see them use that strategy potentially. And Mikey Gant, a really electric athlete. Loved watching him play both in the basketball court and now on the football field. And if you can get that lead early and force the Sharks to come from behind, which they wouldn't want to do, you could make this one interesting against a Shark team that certainly struggled in a game against a really good James Island team who have motivation of their own. So I expect the Sharks to come out strong and run the football, especially if they're able to get that lead and use that power ground game of Jaden Jones and that offense. And Tanner Macy's continue to grow as a passer, and certainly I think the Sharks may be holding some cards to the vest potentially as you get into, the big one next week, the hometown showdown. And that's the thing that you'd like to see the mirror. I mean, obviously it's easy to look towards that game, but you can't take any game lightly. It kind of has that trap game sense sometimes when you look towards that big rivalry game, and you can't overlook this one. But this is a huge game, opportunity to get a 2-1 region play, and then you can set your sights on that rivalry game with Bluffton. So game that May River should win if they execute, take care of business, take care of the football on offense, and ride that ferocious defense led by Thomas Rice, who's having a fantastic season. So expect May River to grind out this one with a win in the second half and defeat Colleton County.
Yeah, and I think what we're seeing a little bit with May River is, a necessary rebuilding year, so to speak, where they had just enough really good players that you didn't really want to believe it was a rebuilding year, that it maybe didn't have to be, and then they had a tough schedule too. So those things combined, because what we've seen is they still dominate the inferior competition, but they aren't quite there against the top tier competition. And I think a little bit of that is some depth and youth being exposed, that, those guys are able to hold their own, and then the Stars are able to dominate against the lower teams. But when they play the really tough squads, they expose those weaknesses in that youth and inexperience a little bit more. So, there's still a ton of talent there, and those young guys are getting great reps, and they're still maybe the favorite to finish second in the region. I mean, probably. I don't know.
They got the head over Lucy Beckham, which is huge.
Yeah. So it's I don't know. I still don't know what to think about that region or about that team at this point. So we'll find out, a lot more over the next couple of weeks, and especially when they play Bluffton, who is at home against James Island this week. I have not checked in with Brady yet, although he's already sent me a draft script that I need to look at for his preview. But I'm, obviously a lot hinges on the quarterback situation at Bluffton. I would guess Max another week and make sure he's fresh from May River, maybe punt this one. But I know Hayden Gregory doesn't want to lay down against the region front runner either. He's all about chip on his shoulder, making a statement. So if Max is well enough to go, I imagine he's going to go, and that obviously would be a big factor in this one.
Yeah, that's huge to get Von Hohenstraten back this week. He's still recovering from that setback against Hilton Head, and if he's feeling well enough to go, he's going to go. And I believe that's the mentality of Hayden Gregory. I think he believes in this quarterback, and if he's at the point where he's ready to get back in there, he's going to be given that green light. But every game is huge. Every region game is huge, especially when you get a chance to knock off a team like James Island on their home field. And it's always tough to play on the road, and we've seen James Island have a little bit of struggles in the loss to King Bay. But other than that, this Trojans team has been one of the best in Class 4A. And when you have that terrific crop of skill position players like Wushi Ravenau, who obviously has been a matchup problem and has been a standout against so many teams this year. So going to have to find a way to hold down that passing game, which is not easy to do. And I think the offense, as you mentioned, I think it hinges a lot on who's going to be under center at quarterback. If it's Von Hohenstraten, I think this Bluffton offense, I expect them to have a chance to pick up some big plays, and especially when you have Jalen Linder, who has been a sensation, and then Kamari Simmons, who you kind of forget about a little bit, but I'd like to see them use him a little more, and that's what they've been trying to do. Kamari has become an important factor as this season has gone along, and certainly a weapon that you have to keep your eyes on if you're the opposition. Then Roderick Buxton, I think he needs more praise than what he's been given, because he's been a rock. They've been able to grind some big time yardage from his legs. And then Golphin has been a nice guy to spell him at sometimes these last few games of the season. So I like the way the offense is moving forward. I think the line's going to have to block well, especially in the run game against the James Island front that has been playing some strong football. So it's an uphill challenge for sure, even made more so if Von Hohenstraten is not suited up for this one after what happened to Trace Hilleman last week. So, I think Bluffton going to get their best efforts, whether or not Von Hohenstraten is out on the field, but I don't think it's going to be enough against this James Island team. But certainly, that's why you play the games, and home crowd's going to be rocking. Bluffton certainly has the talent to keep up, but they're going to have to play a mistake-free game in order to take down James Island. I do think the Trojans get this one, and Bluffton sets their sights next week on May River.
Yes, and then there's the other team in this little 1-1 round robin, or the other two teams, Hilton Head and Lucy Beckham, going to do battle this week. So this is a huge game as far as that playoff seeding shakes out, because Hilton Head already has the loss to Bluffton, but Beckham already has a win over Bluffton, but Beckham has the loss to May River. And so, we're starting to get into the fun here. And the Seahawks coming off a really good showing against Colleton. Would have liked to have seen a little more from the offense probably, but pitching a shutout, you will take that every single time. And sometimes you only score as many points as you have to. You get the lead, and you're going to stay conservative as long as you have it. And I think there's a little bit of that, especially when you have a guy like Troy Temko, who's been just terrific with the ball. And he can just grind it away with little to no risk and make that game go real fast. I think the success you saw with May River running the ball against Lucy Beckham bodes well for Temko and the Seahawks in this game. And certainly, both the quarterbacks, I don't think we've given BJ Payne enough credit for continuing to play both the quarterbacks. And let me just say what I mean by that, in that, certainly there were times where one or the other looked like the guy who was probably the 1A. But you've got two kids who are high school kids who, are good enough to be the quarterback of that football team, and both bring something different to the table.
Right.
And they've done a terrific job of allowing both of them to put their stamp on it and, ride the hot hand when you need to, but let them both get their opportunities instead of having somebody just sit on the bench and waste their time.
Sometimes you have that situation where you're competing against each other for a job. This is not the case. These two guys support each other and play for each other and believe in each other. And you'd love to see that if you're BJ Payne, the Seahawks team, because both have trust in each other and both have, like you said, provide different skill sets. You look at Owen Bays, who's been able to run the option really well with that rushing attack and use his quick legs to get down the field. And then Jackson Bobby's made some magic happen with his arm. He also can run the football. So I just love how they've been able to mix and match both guys and kind of use both to their advantage at different points in the season and during a game. So I really like the way this Hilton Head offense has evolved this year. And of course, you got Troy Timko, who has been the biggest surprise, the biggest star of this group. And the offensive line has performed well and in some big moments. That Hampton was really impressive. Bluffton was certainly a letdown. You had that game, but just able to seal it in that second half, and certainly a lesson you can take moving forward. And this is a big one for the Seahawks going up against Lucy Beckham. And yeah, I do think the run game, that rushing attack with your workhorse Troy Timko, that really favors, especially after what May River did to Lucy Beckham. But I expect the Bengals have really brushed up some things on defense. They did a good job holding Bluffton to 14 over the Bobcats. More of kind of a mix and match team when it comes to the running and passing game, but still, I think Lucy Beckham We'll see if they turn the corner on defense against Hilton Head. Playing at the line of scrimmage, I think, will be a big factor. And can the Seahawks be able to execute and convert on those important third downs and take care of the football? And the defense, both defense have been playing really well. I mean, Lucy Beckham, obviously a letdown against May River, but before that hadn't allowed more than 10 points in a game, and I still think this defense is the real deal. So it could be that kind of defensive grinding effort, but we'll see how it flows and shakes out. Both teams have shown their ability to run the ball, so it could be one of those kinds of games. We'll have to find out what happens on Friday night, but I think it's up for the taking. I don't think there's much of a difference between these two teams, and I think the Seahawks will take note of how big of a game this is, and certainly can build on a lot of what they saw against Carleton County. The defense has been terrific, led by Chris Marable. Had a heck of a week after getting that Shrine Bowl invitation, as well as that dominant shutout. And then Shake Thompson is a player that should not be slept on in South Carolina. He is becoming a button star as well over there. So I like the way Hilton Head, Carter Salibi. They got some dudes. Carter Salibi's a dude. And so many other guys have really stepped up on this defense. BJ Payne's group has really gotten some swagger and definitely learned a lot after the Upton loss. So I expect Seahawks to compete in this one, but going to come down to a few plays. Going to come down to can you execute and avoid those mistakes and see what happens. Should be a fun region game.
Then we got Battery Creek at Hanahan. Creek trying to get back to the winning ways after losing to Beaufort. This one I haven't gotten an update on Damian Freeman or Jeremiah McEachin, but again, this one, a lot of this hinges on that. Hanahan certainly the better team on paper. This was a game that I thought Creek might have a chance to stay in and potentially win if they were healthy. But if they're down Freeman and McEachin, I don't see any way. And if either one of them is out, it's going to be a really tough sled because they really thrive on having both those guys and being able to keep them fresh.
And this Hanahan team is just really good. I mean,
they're tough.
They are a very good football team. And it's a mismatch, unfortunately, for Battery Creek. I mean, only loss coming. Woodland is having another sensational season. Lost by just 7 points. So I think this Hanahan team's for real. And I do expect the Hawks to cruise in this one. And it's just tough for Battery Creek. I mean, you got to get a lot of credit for what they've done this year. They've been battling against some tough teams, and 3 wins. That's a major accomplishment so far for Terrence Ash and this group, especially when you look at who you've been, a Whale Branch team that, I mean, is still have some athletes despite a couple injuries. But and then North Charleston, a game where you had to have, and you got it. So you got to think of this as a success for Terrence Ash, and really like what they're doing over there at Creek. But without your runners of McEachin alongside Damian Freeman in that ground attack, it's tough to keep up with that Hanahan offense. So I expect this one to be in favor of the Hawks here. And Battery Creek, it's just a tough situation for them, but a lot of football still left to be played. Hopefully everybody can get healthy soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And if by some chance both of those guys are on the field, I think it's a different story and there's a chance at the least. But a major mismatch in 2A, Barnwell 7-0 at Ridgeland 0-7, and we don't need to harp too much on the Jags and season they're having. I think that Esto game is the one that they're probably talking about. Is we still got one shot, boys. We got one shot, but this is going to be a tough one for them. But then opposite them in the region, we've got a great matchup with Wade Hampton, 6-2 overall, 2-0 in region, going to Woodland 7-0 and 1-0 in region. And this is, for all intents and purposes, the region championship game, and it should be a fantastic one. Hampton, a very physical, hard-nosed, want to shorten the game, run the ball first. Woodland, they'll run it behind Cam Pringle, but they're pretty electric. They've got some real playmakers, and I've been feeling like they were a sleeper team all season long. And I know Hampton's going to want to make a statement, but man, I think the Wolverines are a lower state championship contender.
I absolutely agree. 7-0 start for Woodland. They have just been the class over their competition so far. They're absolutely rolling to begin the season. And Wade Hampton, I do think there's a way they can hang around in this game. And I think if they can run the ball well with Zion Dobson, who I believe Dobson just picked up an offer. So congratulations to him, and I expect more to come his way in the coming weeks and months. Dobson really a special talent, his ability to run the football, and I think it's kind of as he goes, this team goes mentality, because he's been that potent piece for this offense to gain traction. And obviously you have some good skill position guys with your quarterback in Chris Terry. And then, I mean, you've had some receivers who have shown that they can make some plays. So obviously it starts with the ground game. If they can get production there with Dobson, that's going to be the key. And we'll see if Terry can make some big throws on some key third down, fourth down plays to move the chains. So I'm excited to see this Wade Hampton team compete in a challenging contest that will test them in pretty much every aspect of the game. And but I think this Woodland team is firing all cylinders this year. They're looking like a team that could go all the way in Class 2A. And certainly we'll have to see a complete effort from Wade Hampton in order to steal this win. But obviously, they'll be motivated for this one. They're going to put their best foot forward in this game, and it should be a terrific high school football contest.
Yes, indeed. I'm looking forward to seeing how that one turns out. I wish I could be there. If I could stop there and watch that game and then go to PD and watch that game and then go to Myrtle Beach, I would, for sure. And then finally, Whale Branch at Allendale Fairfax. And this is a more interesting matchup than it would have been a few weeks ago because Whale Branch has just had tons of injuries and now – Pouchet was a little banged up at the end. They put Jermon Bowers in, and he played a couple plays, and then he got hurt on defense on the last series. So not sure what his status is. I mean, they are just – Josh Ferguson doesn't want to see me ever again over there because every time I come over there, there's a season-ending injury. But they're going to Allendale where they've kind of got things going pretty good right now. They've won a couple in a row, have some confidence, and – this is not a foregone conclusion at all. Whale Branch, they're playing a lot of guys now who were not expected to be in key roles at the start of the season who are because of injuries. And so weaknesses there. And Keith Chisholm, on the other hand, going to be the best dude on the field. And I imagine he's going to find a way to get his. And that might be enough. But Allendale showing some fight here. This could be an interesting game.
Yeah, and he's going to be the guy that's going to have to step up in a game like this. And I think this will be a game. It's just going to be a close contest. Whale Branch certainly having to deal with a couple of key injuries, and both two teams in a couple of different directions here. Because I think this Allendale Fairfax team is really finding their footing these last few weeks. They beat Branchville. They actually won 2 games in 5 days. There was a game that was postponed due to the hurricane. So they had to play Branchville on Monday. They beat them. Then they beat Bethune Bowman just 4 days later on the road, 44-20. So, that's pretty impressive stuff. Certainly riding high. And now they go up for another home game against Whale Branch. And you got to like their chances of competing this one against a Whale Branch team that has been banged up. But, Keith Chisholm is an athlete, and it's going to be tough to stop him whatever he's trying to do on the field and have that big-time scoop and score. And defense is going to have to show up because – This Allendale Fairfax team starting to find their way on offense. Over 40 points the last 2 weeks. Obviously, Whale Branch defense will be a stiffer challenge, but they're going to have to show up in this ball game if you're the Warriors. And the offense is going to have to come up with some big plays as well, especially when you have limited amount of personnel, when you have a couple guys out of the lineup. But, it's good to see some other people taking charge, but it's going to be Keith Chisholm is going to have to be the guy. It seemingly seems in this game, had that 72-yard touchdown run and that interception for the Warriors. It looks like actually the scoop and score is Kavon Chisholm, not Keith Chisholm. Just clarification.
Right. Yeah, that was Kavon Chisholm.
It was Estel.
Estel.
Yeah, Estel. What's it correct? Two last names, 2 different teams. So just clearing it up. But Keith Chisholm's still a monster day with the pick and the 72-yard touchdown run. For Whale Branch, and that's the guy they're going to have to rely upon in this ball game, and we'll see if the Warriors will be able to get things going on offense. I suspect that the defense is going to be ready to go, but we'll see if the offense can get going with those limited amount of pieces that they have. So going to be a challenge for Jerry Hatcher, but it seems like he always gets the most out of his group. Certainly thinned out, but I expect a big time effort from them, but not going to be easy against a Allendale Fairfax team that's finding its grooves as well. So should be a very intriguing game and one that could have some big-time region implications.
Yes, indeed. And that is the high school league slate for week 8. So let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors, and then we'll be right back with Dylan Price to talk Skeeza football here on the Lowco Pigskin Preview. This podcast is made possible by our sustaining sponsors. Our original sponsor, Mickelson Law Firm, the official real estate attorneys of LowcoSports.com. Go see Ryan and Tiffany and the Mickle Squad for all your legal needs and support the local businesses that support Lowco. Local Pie, official pizza sponsor of Lowco Sports. They sling the best pies in Bluffton and on Hilton Head, but don't sleep on the mac and cheese. Star Home Services, official residential cleaning service of Lowco Sports. Sometimes you just don't want to clean. Call on Carla and her amazing team to do the dirty work at a great price and tell them Lowco sent you. 843 Sport, the official training center of Lowco Sports. No matter your game, 843 Sport is the place to take it to the next level. They're bringing all the area's top trainers and some of the best elite travel teams from various sports under one roof at 843 Sport. DDS Web Design, the official SEO experts of Lowco Sports. If you have a business and you want to get found, look no further than DDS. They can build an attractive and effective website loaded with all the cutting-edge SEO tools you need to show up where people are looking, on Google. Dave and Denise will get it done. Additional support provided by Cannon Specialty Services, Bluffton Pest Control, Next Move, The Fit Club in Belfair Town Village, and our Patreon members. Join today for $1 or more per month at patreon.com/LowcoSports to get early or exclusive access to our local sports content and exclusive Lowco swag. All right, we're back now to talk some Skeeza football with Dylan Price. And Dylan, you got to see a good one last week. I mean, not good for your boys from Dorchester. They got beat 44-12 by Patrick Henry, but a good game. And we had a couple other ones, including Wes was at the Hilton Head Christian win over Thomas Hayward, 33-24. Your boy Chris Myers and John Paul too got a nice win, 35-7 over Hilton Head Prep. Carlton Prep still undefeated, 25-14 over Bethesda. Another impressive performance. Williamsburg smacks Buford Academy 47-14, and Clarendon Hall 39-8 over Cross. So, you got into it a little bit on Pigskin Live, but your quick takeaways from last week's Skeeza results, and kind of what you think it means going into this week.
Well, for Patrick Henry, that was a big win. I give a lot of credit to Patrick Henry and their attitude, the way they play, because, they didn't do anything special. They just ran it down DA's throat, and we did nothing to stop it. And then, big win for John Paul, getting back on track. Hilton Head Prep, not the season they wanted to have, but they're still playing hard. That's really all I kind of take away from this week. Patrick Henry, I love that attitude they play with. That was awesome to watch.
Yeah, and going to the Hilton Head Christian Academy game, I was really impressed by Dylan Clark and that offense. They were firing on all cylinders. Loved the way he looked out there throwing the football and getting a lot of receivers involved. Not just Caden Turner, but AJ Hopt, a couple other guys as well that were able to implement in there. So they like the way that direction the offense is heading, and the defense came with some big stops. You got to get a lot of credit to Thomas Hayward. They're kind of battling and fighting this game. They nearly made it a one-score contest with just a couple minutes left, but Hilton Head Christian Academy showing their medal at home, and that's a big-time win over a defending state champ team. So fifth straight win for Ron Paduzzi's Eagles. Really like the direction they're heading, and we'll get to it later, but a big-time game for them that I think you'll be at, Justin. Let's segue right into that ball game. Hilton Head Christian going to PD Academy.
Yeah, no doubt. That is a great segue, Wes. So we'll look at the schedule here, and I think that is definitely the highlight game, if you would call it that, and I may be able to get to it because I'll be up in Myrtle Beach for baseball this weekend. It's only about an hour over to PD Academy, so I think I may shoot over there and check that game out. And that's going to be a classic game in Skeeza 3A. Then we've got some other great matchups too, though. Thomas Hayward at Buford Academy in a Lowco on Lowco battle that I believe you're going to be at, Wes. Northwood coming to John Paul II, a little bit of a lopsided matchup there. JP2 should be able to take care of business. Hilton Head Prep going to Pinewood Prep, Carolina Academy at Carlton Prep, and St. John's Christian at Cross. Let's start with the big one, guys. Hilton Head Christian PD. I mean, Chris Myers has already texted me about seating scenarios and math and plus 15 and maxing out and all this stuff. I just had to call him and go, hey man, just tell me, just explain it to me. And so as I understand it, Hilton Head Christian not only has to win, but I mean, obviously they want to win first and foremost, but their seeding is really dependent on the margin here. If they do win, and if they win by less than 5, they could still be like the 3 seed. because they got maxed out by 21 by Wilson Hall. So it's a numbers game at this point. You got to have an abacus to figure it all out. But I told him, you know what, man, that's all going to sort itself out. I don't have to worry about that. I'm just worried about the football games. So let's talk about the football game, and it looks like a really good one. I mean, I think a few weeks ago we would have said PD was probably like the favorite to win it all, and I'm not sure anybody was too close, but I think now these teams are pretty close to a toss-up going into this, and this is really going to, provide some context as to who's the front runner in 3A.
Yeah, this is going to determine a lot in terms of seeding, who's going to be at that top spot come playoff time, and just the changing of the guard, kind of like where everyone stacks up here in 3A. This is a colossal matchup when you just look at the whole scope of the season. And yeah, a couple weeks in, I thought this would be PD's game to win undoubtedly, but Hilton Head Christian Academy has really turned on after 5 consecutive wins, and I thought they looked the part of a contending team in that victory over Thomas Hayward. Certainly, and Ron Peduzzi said that we haven't played our best game yet this season. Well, maybe it comes this week against PD on the road. Maybe they'll have the motivation to turn it on against the Eagles, but we'll see what happens there, because PD, aside from that one blemish against Williamsburg Academy, which what an impressive win that was for that Williamsburg team. They are on fire this year. 41-22. I mean, that's insane victory for them. But PD Academy is still very dangerous. Coming into this one at 6-1, even Hall in a close affair, 35-31. And I think if Hilton Head Christian Academy played Wilson Hall, I think it would be a lot closer. Or I would expect the Eagles to have a good chance to win that one. So I think this one could be up for grabs. Hudson Spivey, obviously, always very tough to go against. One of the best quarterbacks in the entire state. And when you have Colby Sinclair out there in the backfield, he is a hard runner. It is really tough to stop a guy like that, and especially when you have Hudson Spivey who can take off as well. So this is a very potent offense, and Hilton Head Christian Academy, those junkyard dogs led by Matt Smith, are going to have to be on the top of the game. But Matthew Scarpa, he has been insanely good this year, anchor over their defensive line, and I really like the way the defense improved. Tucker Tevapaw has been an impact, not with his punting, obviously, but with his ability to read offensive plays over there in the secondary and come up with some big turnovers. And then Caden Turner has been excellent, impactful guy on defense as well. And so many others have stepped up. We mentioned about all the athletes that have really turned it on and have kind of transitioned into this football sense. I mean, they've played other sports, but I love the way Ron Peduzzi's team has really looked the part, played as a complete team, especially defensively. And, certainly some plays that they wish they could have had different outcomes against Thomas Hayward. And I think penalties were a big concern. I thought they shot themselves in the foot a little too many times, and that gave a couple self-inflicted wounds. But, I think that's something you can correct in practice, and you move forward in the season. And I expect the offense to come out strong against PD Academy. Dylan Clark has been a star these last few games. I expect that to continue. Defense is going to have to step up and make some stops. I think that's going to be a key. Which defense is going to be able to step up the challenge here? I like Hilton Head Christian Academy's chances of doing that on the road, but it's a tough atmosphere. I mean, they play them a couple times, but it seems like they haven't played them on the road. So it's going to be interesting to see how they come out and respond in a road game against the PD team looking to make a statement of their own. That PD team is hungry. They've lost them a couple times. The last 2 years, they've lost to the Eagles in the state playoffs. So certainly a lot of motivation here on the side of these PD Academy Eagles. So it's all the makings of a classic. I think it's going to be a terrific game. I'm not sure who I'm going to pick for this one yet. It's looking like a toss-up, but I think Hilton Head Christian Academy has every chance to pull this one out and kind of emerge as that team to beat potentially in 3A and Skeeza.
I definitely agree with Wes saying, if Hilton Head Christian and PD play, or Hilton Head Christian and Wilson Hall play right now, I think it's a little bit different game because Hilton Head Christian is miles ahead of what they were from the start of the season. They definitely do have a big task to stop Sinclair and Spivey. I played against both those kids. They were big when they were freshmen, and I can only imagine how much bigger they are now. Yeah. So, you got a double-headed snake with Spivey being able to run the ball and pass it really well. So it's a big accomplishment for them to really go up there and get a road win. And I think they might be able to pull it off because Dylan Clark is starting to form into that more of a Hayden Shin, Jace Blackshear kind of gunslinger. It's awesome to see.
Yeah, he's got that it factor. I liked Peduzzi's quote that he plays quarterback with a linebacker mentality. I think that's a really good analogy for him because he's very much an instinct, take what the defense gives you, go with the flow, never out of the play guy, just playing schoolyard ball out there. And that works in high school football, especially at the Skeeza level. If you can just out athlete people and give your guys a chance to get loose, you can make a lot of things happen. And he just doesn't give up on a play. He just keeps fighting. I think that's going to be just an incredible football game. I'm hoping I can stay as long as possible. But as many times as they both throw it, that game might not end till 11 o'clock. And I got to get back to Myrtle Beach and do a remote live show. So we'll see how much of it I see. I might get the first quarter in or something, but fun fact, I saw Scarpa, Big Daddy, out on a walk in the neighborhood when I went up to the bus stop a little bit ago. So, he seemed pretty chill, pretty low key, but looking forward to a big game this week. And, so I had a good chat, and I think it seems like he's pretty locked in. Should be a good one on Friday night, but not the only good one. Thomas Hayward, Buford Academy. Both teams looking to bounce back. Neither one, likes to lose and doesn't do it very often. So, they're both teams and coaching staffs that I think of as teams that, like, if they coming off a loss, you better look out. And now they're both playing each other. So this could be a good one, Wes. I think you're going to be in store for a treat. Both, terrific run games. They can both throw it a little bit. The quarterbacks are both dynamic, and they both play good, hard-nosed defense. So, I could see this being a track meet, but I could also see it being like 16-12 or something. And I wouldn't be surprised by either one, but I'm eager to hear what you guys think, whether the offense or the defense wins out in this one.
Yeah, I think it could morph into any of those games in terms of an offensive track meet or kind of that defensive grinder, especially when you have two teams that like to run the football like that. So we'll see how it kind of turns and evolves as the game progresses. But either way, it's going to be an entertaining one. I think it should be a close ball game. And I love watching both these two teams play. Obviously, both squads coming off of tough losses. I think, Thomas Hayward, they were in this one until the very end. They were battling all the way through and nearly came back until the Christian County BA. Just a tough loss all the way around against the amazing Williamsburg team, who I think is in line for a state championship at this point in Class 2A. But BA certainly, I think they have more to say about that if they meet them again, but that's a discussion for a future week. And they're focused on this week against Thomas Hayward, and a non-region game, but a momentum game for both of these teams because you want to put up a strong performance as you get ready. But yeah, I think it's a big momentum building game for both of these teams. You'd like to come away with a win to power you into these final few games in the regular season, and I think it's up for grabs. And I think BA has the slight edge at home, but it's very, very close. I could see it going either way. Both teams will ground and pound at you, but both teams also have the ability to chuck it deep. You look at Buford Academy and what Braden Deneen can do with Sean Hayward and that connection, which has been so lethal this year. He's been doing a better job of throwing the football with some great accuracy, taking advantage of what the defense gives them. But, it's the focus of the two-head rushing attack of Devontae Green alongside Jackson Porter, and that's really been the foundation of this offense, and I expect to see them both get a heavy dose of the football early, and we'll see how Thomas Hayward's defense, led by Lawson Hewlett, will look to respond by that. So, and then for Thomas Hayward, obviously we saw a little bit of concern when Dietrich Schuford came out, but he looked to be all right. He came back in the game and he produced on that last drive. But you know what? Maybe they go to Tyshawn Mansell and the Wildcat a little more because, that worked last year and it's still working now. And I like what I saw from it when Mansell was able to carry the football himself and use that high motor and speed to turn to the outside and pick up some yards. So maybe it's surprised if they kind of do some both here and maybe use a little bit of Mansell, maybe use a little bit of Schuford on those passing situations. So kind of a little bit to play with here for Nick Schuford going forward. And we'll see what the offense decides to do there. But BA, big week for the defense. You like the defense step up here. They gave up 40-plus to Williamsburg. I think a big defensive showing is key for the Eagles. The offense has been great, but you want to see the defense step up. So it's going to be a great game. Like I said, still having to think about who I'm going to choose for this one. And I think the flow of the game could absolutely go towards that grinding offensive 16-14 game, or we could see that high-powered offense is striking early and it could be the shootout. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But, I'm excited to go. First time I'll be at Beeford Academy, so I'm excited to see that field and be able to cover that game. So it's going to be a fantastic contest here in Skis and a big momentum building opportunity for both of these sides.
May I recommend long pants, long sleeves, and bug spray?
Yes.
Merritt Field's a lovely place to cover a game, but there will be some friendly sand fleas in attendance. It's pretty rough. A couple of things that came up in my mind that I don't want to lose there. If I haven't already lost them. As far as the pace and how the game is played, I'm interested to see which coach tries to shorten the game, if either. I think it'll be telling which one of them thinks the other team has a little more horses and they need to take the air out of it and shorten the game and win a dogfight. Because both of them are perfectly willing to win an ugly game. Neither one of them cares what it looks like. So I think they're both going to try to take their shots deep because I think you've seen both teams be a little bit susceptible to the pass. So I think they're both going to take their shots, but I'm interested to see which one of them plays it more conservatively and tries to play field position and grind it out because they're both guys that'll do that to you. And certainly Shuford. I mean, we've seen them win a bunch of ugly games over the years, but Clifford is the king of the split backs and 3 yards in a cloud of dust. So he ain't afraid to do it either. He'll beat you 8-6 all day. So it's going to be interesting and telling, I think, to see which one feels like they can win a track meet and which one feels like they need to make it shorter.
This is going to be one of the most physical games we've seen all year. Both teams coming off a loss, teams that do not like to lose whatsoever. I think BA has been getting beat by Thomas Hayward these past couple of years since coming into 11-man. And I think this year they turn it around, and I really think that Mark Clifford's going to grind out this game in the split back and just ball control and manage the game and win a low-scoring affair. I'm liking that 12-14, 16-14, even 18-6, something score around there.
Yeah, but I do think if BA can get an early lead, I could definitely see Clifford turning towards that split back, let's grind you out approach in the second half because they have the horses to do that. But what I like about both of these teams is they have the ability to come from behind. And we saw that with Thomas Hayward, with Dietrich Schufert in that pass game, which opened up with Cutter Williams and a couple other guys that really stepped up in that area. So, I mean, it's not out of the question that we could see if the grinding out doesn't work, you could definitely see this turn into a lot more of that high-powered passing offense. So, it's. I mean, I think a lot of gamesmanship is involved along with both these coaches in terms of how the game flows past the kickoff. But I'm intrigued. I mean, I think this game could go either way. You have two explosive offenses. That's always a lot of fun, and we'll see which defense is up for the challenge. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be a big time Skiza game. Obviously not a region game, but still a lot at stake between two teams that don't like each other and two teams that want to buck that losing streak.
Yes, sir. Should be a very good one. And then we've got here in the Lowco, we've got Northwood Academy and John Paul II. JP2 got last week against Hilton Head Prep, and now they get another game that we would describe as a get right game. Northwood really struggling mightily on both sides of the ball. This should be one where JP2 runs up a decent lead at halftime and gets some guys some reps with the running clock in the second half, I would think, especially the way Christian Tilton's been playing. Put up 278 on the ground last week against Hilton Head Prep. Now, I don't think the cameras are going to be turning out for this one, so he might not be in that extra gear, but I think he's going to be just fine, and JP2 should roll through this one and be able to get some guys some rest and get them well for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I expect JP2 to roll in this one, kind of continue what you did right against Hilton Head Prep. That was an impressive effort on both sides, like the way the defense played against the Dolphins. So I think all that will continue here in this contest. They should pick up an easy win here over a Northwood team still trying to find its way. And then that's a Northwood team that used to be one of the premier teams in Skiza many, many years ago, but certainly things have changed, and we hope that Northwood will get back on those winning ways in the future. But JP2 should be able to use that terrific offense and let Christian Tilton cook. Let that man cook, and he should be able to ride past these Northwood Academy Chargers. And really like I've seen also from Tony Hill. He's taken a lot of strides since the last time I saw him a year ago. So I'm really impressed with the development of that JP2 offense, and the defense is starting to find its way too. So Chris Myers doing a wonderful job with this JP2 program. First year I came here, I remember all the struggles that this team was having, but they have definitely turned the corner in this program and chance to pick up another key win in this region.
Another get-right game for John Paul. You know, I have no problems with their offense. They're running it tremendous. Just another game for the defense to get right and get everything flowing and just, you know, put a goose egg on the board.
Yeah, Tilton has been the truth. I was trying to find my Tilton highlights that whole time while you guys were talking about him, and I couldn't. But talking with Myers today, you know, they like the way that they could potentially it could shake out for them. They're hoping maybe they get a trip to Pinewood because they feel like that was a game should have won and could win. So. You know, I just think this 3A playoffs are going to be pretty fascinating. There's also going to be a fascinating thing coming, which is what are they going to do with the games that didn't get played? And nobody seems to know how it's going to factor into the seeding. Florence Christian didn't play Hilton Head Prep, and Wilson Hall didn't play Northwood. Northwood and Hilton Head Prep, one of them's got to get into the playoffs, and they don't play each other. And there's a pretty good chance neither one of them is going to beat anybody else. But none of that was spelled out to anybody before the season. So it's going to be a little bit of an issue, I suspect. And, you know, I suggested maybe they should just have Northwood and Hilton Head Prep play an exhibition game the first week of the playoffs and just give the number one seed a bye. Yeah. And just have it, you know, just give the one seed a bye and just let them have a bowl game instead so somebody gets a W. And then, you know, we'll roll from there. But, you know, that's not going to happen. But you know, that works as well as whatever we're going to make up on the fly anyway. So,
yeah, I mean, like, you can't really get rid of the week 10 game if you want to have like that 8-9 playing. So that's not the kind of possibility that would work. But
yeah, that's not viable. So I'm just saying let them play an exhibition and give the one seed a first round bye and let's roll. But it's going to be controversy, I'm sure. It usually is. And then we've got Hilton Head Prep, speaking of which, going to Pinewood Prep. Shapes up to be another tough matchup for the Dolphins, who are just overmatched. I mean, they just don't have enough in the trenches to really, you know, get anything going. They've got Lonsell Daly, but you know, can't find much room in their scheme. And so, you know, I think it's going to be a long night for them. Pinewood got to be one of the better 2 and 5 teams around. I would think they're a dangerous team, and they usually beat the teams they're supposed to beat and give a heck of a scare to the teams they're not supposed to beat. So, you know, I wouldn't be stunned if Hilton Head Prep makes this a game on the road, but because the secondary is pretty good. But Pinewood is pretty dangerous.
Yeah, this is not your average 2 and 5 team. If you look at their schedule, they've had they've had some tough opponents to play against, and a couple of close losses. They lost a 2-point game to Lawrence Manning in overtime, and lost a 3-point game to Ben Lippen, and then they also lost the PG Academy, but that was a close one, only a 7-point game. The Florence Christian defeat, 28-6. You'd expect them to be a little bit more in that game, but Pinewood Prep, I still think they've got great offensive ability to score points. And I think they should be able to put some points up on Hilton Head Prep, a team that has really struggled containing the offense that they faced this year. And Pinewood Prep's going to run at you. They can throw it at you. A lot of high-powered players on that, especially on the skill position side for that Pinewood Prep team. So it should be all systems go for that Panther offense. And I expect to see those guys, Timmons, who's had a great year over there, running back, already over 500 yards on the season. Even Wyndham's had a nice year passing the football. A guy who I wrote about at the beginning of the year and expected to have a big season, and certainly living up to that. So a great year so far for Pinewood Prep in terms of the offense. It's gone cold at some unopportune times, but you know, I still expect this team can hang with a lot of their competition in skis of 3A. So this is a big game for them, a get-right opportunity for Pinewood after losing 2 straight And Hilton Head Prep, I mean, desperation time. You're 0-6. You'd love to get that win to put you in the postseason, sure. And I'm expecting to battle Dustin Etheridge and his team has continued to do that, but didn't show much in that JP2 game. You're expecting a little bit more from the offense. It just wasn't there. The blocking has been on and off so far this year. Haven't been able to get as much done with Lonsell Daly. And when defenses have been able to take away Lonsell Daly, they have not been able to do much in the passing game. AJ Berger was out for a good part of that JP2 game, and just things have not been clicking offensively. But these guys are going to battle. Love the dedication that these players have put in, and love the effort from that group. And they're going to keep clawing and chopping until the end of the season. And this could be the week if everything breaks right for Prep to get that first W. But definitely a challenge against a high-octane Pinewood offense that's hungry themselves for a big-time region win.
Yeah, and Hilton Head Prep, it's been rough. It's been rough, and I'm old enough to remember when they held Bethesda to 8 points in week 0. That was weird. That's the history of a high school football season right there. Hilton Head Prep held Bethesda to 8 points and lost 8-6 in week 0. And here we are. So, things. There's a lot of things that can go well, a lot of things that can go badly, and things go sideways in a hurry. And I mean, look at May River, where they're sitting at 2-5 as well, and that's a team that's been one of the best teams in the area. So, it can get off track quickly. Pinewood, you're right. They had the really front-loaded schedule, and now they've got it set up where they should be able to run the table from here on out and be in position to host a first-round game. And I still think they're dangerous just because they're tough to defend. Not everybody is equipped to defend that, and they can shock somebody. So
Thomas Hayward next week, week 9. That should be obviously non-region, but could be an interesting game.
Yeah, absolutely. Hayward's got a pretty murderer's row of non-region games, which makes up for the region where it's pretty weak, other than Patrick Henry, which is an interesting matchup coming up too. So, Carolina Academy at Colleton Prep. Colleton, man, those dudes just rolling, and I don't think they're going to have any trouble this week either. This should be a pretty easy win for them. I'm going to bet Caleb Davis has over 125 yards, and Cole Davis has over 200 yards, and that's at halftime. And then they call it a night and go get a hot dog and some nachos and let the JV do the running clock in the second half. How about you guys?
I'm hammering the over.
Yeah, I'm with the over too.
I know it depends how many they score before halftime, because once they start running the clock in the second half and they get the starters out, that second half goes by real fast sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Colleton Prep's going to take care of business there. They'll cover. St. John's Christian, I don't know, the backdoor cover. The backdoor cover is always dangerous in the running clock situation. St. John's Christian at Cross. Once again, St. John's 2-3, but Cross 0-7, and this is another one with Hilton Head Prep where it starts with optimism, but man, it's just so razor thin as far as the depth that one or two guys get hurt, and all of a sudden it goes downhill real fast. So tough year for Cross. Credit to the kids who are toughing it out and going out there every Friday night, because it ain't easy. It ain't easy to go out there and know, these guys are probably gonna, knock us in the mouth and beat us up. But they keep going and suiting it up. And you've been there, Dylan. I mean, there's games where these guys are going to beat our butts, and you still got to go out there and fight every play. So credit to those kids, but I think St. John's, pretty tough team, physical team will take care of Cross.
Yeah, like you said, a lot of credit to those guys. It's very hard playing teams that are just gonna run through you. I've been a part of it basically every year except my senior year when we played Thomas Hayward. It was like, God, these guys are huge, but a lot of credit to that, and they'll figure it out next year. Maybe play 8-man or maybe continue to play 11-man, but another game, another learning opportunity.
Yeah, that's what you got to focus on, making improvements every week you step out in the field and just enjoying the opportunity to play high school football, especially after what's happened in the last few years when everybody lost their chance, or at least a couple of teams did. Yeah, put it all in perspective and just be grateful for the opportunity to get out in the field, and especially for a team moving up to 11-man. I mean, this was the dream, and you're being able to live it out this fall, and it's not an opportunity every time you get to put those pads on and play high school football. So It's a little thing sometimes, and you got to appreciate that. And you know what, just continue to make improvements and win as many plays as you can, and see where it takes you.
Indeed. And, there's a lot to be said for just seeing it, just seeing what it takes at that level and what it looks like, and then being able to, go out and try to get there, to get where you want to go. So I think that's it for our slate of Skiza games, guys. So we're going to let Dylan get on out of here, and then we'll get right back with more here on the Lowco Pigskin Preview. All right, Wes, one thing left to do, and that's to name our players of the week before I jet to gymnastics drop-off. So you got the first pick, buddy, and I think you got one queued up. Who's your player of the week?
Well, we've done this a couple of times, but I'm going to go the one which player I got to see in person, because it's always important to get that eye test, and I got it this week with Dylan Clark. I mean, the stats will tell you a lot. 354 yards passing, a couple of touchdown passes, one to Isaiah Anderson, and one to Keaton Turner, which was really impressive on fourth down. But man, the clutch factor's been there for Dylan Clark. He looks poised, and he can throw on the run. I mean, he's becoming a heck of a playmaker with the ability to see the whole field, take the defense gives him, and he's just looking really confident out there at quarterback. Kind of reminiscent of what Hayden Shin brought to this team. I mean, obviously Hayden Shin was such a dynamic and special player. Dylan Clark's still a ways to go to get to him in terms of his level, but he's looking like a guy who could not just be a game manager, but a game wrecker in terms of someone who can make the throws, difficult throws when he needs to. And what a great fourth down play that was to Keaton Turner, and throwing one deep to Isaiah Anderson. He's really connected well with these receivers, and great to see Anderson get involved with that height. And then Turner has just been a dude this year, making plays everywhere they put him on the field. So Dylan Clark's been really fun to watch, and has been the catalyst for Hilton Head Christian County offense. It's really starting to find its groove, and now what an opportunity that he has, a big-time statement game against PD Academy.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun one. And, after the first couple of weeks, I was just like, whoo, this offense, yikes. But, man, that kid has grown into the role and taking the bull by the horns. And now he is the offense, more or less. I mean, guys have to go catch it, but he's making a lot of those plays happen by keeping the play alive with his feet and allowing them to just be athletes and get open. So tremendous growth from him in a very short time, and has me really excited to see, how far he can go with it. I was going to be biased as well and go with the guy I saw in person, but I don't trust my eyes that much. So I needed some stats to verify, and haven't seen stats from Estill yet. So I can't give it to the X Factor, Xavier Garvin, but that's okay, because we got plenty of deserving guys here. And one of them keeps kind of getting overlooked, even though he's like right there every week. So let's throw some love to Cole Davis from Carleton Prep. 27 carries, 287 yards, and 3 touchdowns, and 5 tackles and a sack on defense. And he's put up huge numbers in the first half and mismatches. This was not that. This was basically a de facto region semifinal game, you could call it, against a team that you expected to contend for that region title, Bethesda, and it was a close game, 25-14. They were grinding it out all the way, so every yard was a battle, and he was getting 10 a pop. So just an incredible game from him. What a season Cole Davis has had, and then to carry it 27 times and also be playing on defense, that's an insane amount of physicality required.
Warrior mentality. I mean, you got to love it if you're Greg Langdale. Just an incredible season. I think the most impressive thing about this is the defense that he did it against. This Bethesda Academy team, when you look at what they've done this season, I mean, they've allowed in 4 separate games, they've allowed less than 10 points. And, they're a stingy group. And to be able to put that kind of yardage up against Bethesda, that's very impressive. That's an outstanding feat for Cole Davis, who continues to wow us every week, and certainly needs to be getting more love, because he has been a sensation, really carrying his team on his back in many different circumstances this year. And to do that on defense too, 5 tackles and a sack against a really dynamic Bethesda Academy attack, that's some good stuff there from Cole Davis. And I've just really enjoyed watching him compete and play out there. Absolute warrior, along with this entire team. Just a fun, hard-nosed football team to watch. And this is a group that is going to be lethal in the playoffs. They can keep this up. I am very excited to see Carleton Prep play Buford Academy a week from now, which could absolutely have huge implications to determining region champion and the seeding. But that's going to be a great game. And man, just a great story, especially with the expectations so low after Drew Myrtle was gone. Man, excellent work by this entire team. The defense deserves some love from what they're doing. And Cole Davis could carry this team to a really special postseason.
And that offensive line, once again, I mean, that's where it all starts. And, Cole, I'm sure, would tell us the same thing. But those guys do terrific work. And if you didn't hear our interview with Greg Langdale earlier in the season, go back and check that out, because we give a lot of love to those big hogs up front, and they're doing the work. Cole Davis gets the Player of the Week award, but they know who earned it, or at least who had a big role in it. So props to those guys. All right, Wes, well, that's going to do it for the Pigskin Preview for Week 8. We are ready to rock and roll for Friday night, and you will be too by the time you're done with this thing. So thanks so much to everyone who makes it possible, from the sponsors and the players and coaches who cooperate with us, and to Dylan Price coming on to talk Skiza and lend his insight, and especially to you for listening and viewing every week. That's going to do it for this one. If you want to support us, head over to patreon.com/LowcoSports. You can donate $1 or more, and you will get access to all kinds of exclusive and early access to our content, as well as some Lowco swag. So hit us up on there and support us, and we'll keep the content coming. That does it for this one. Until next time, Lowco.